We make short, crisp videos tailored exactly to the school curriculum. This is useful to the teachers and students in two different ways. The teachers can use these videos to start their lessons. They play these videos as part of their online or offline classes, where the students get engaged to the topics in a very visual way. This helps them in internalizing the topic better, in perhaps understanding it with perhaps a little more visual clarity. Months later, when the students have to revise these same topics for their exams, they can turn to the app or the website and access the same videos on their personal devices at home, be it a simple smartphone, a desktop, a laptop, or even a smart TV. What this means is the students can then get to revise not only the video that was taught in class that day, but also remember what the teacher taught that day because the video served as a visual aid. Before we start today's session, I'm going to play a short sample of one of the notebook videos so that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
This is the beautiful town of Kannauj during the medieval period, and this is Inayat and Noori. They have their workshop right next to their home where many people work. Heaps of flowers, herbs, spices, camel skin bottles, and the air is filled with a cocktail of wonderful fragrances. Guess what is going on, students? Yes, we are inside the distillery and they are all into the production of perfumes. Hello and welcome to this another new lesson series of business studies on the chapter Internal Trade. Now students, quickly have a look at the cities marked on this map of ancient India and guess why we have marked them out. Vaishali, Vidisha, Ujjaini, Paitan, Surat, Lothal, Broch, Kalyan, Mahabalipuram, Arikamedu, Madurai. Guess why have we marked out the cities? Yes, all these cities were important trade centers in ancient India. There were interconnected road and river routes intelligently developed to accelerate since the olden days. Now, let's come back to Kannauj once again. All the different perfumes produced are not only sold in different parts of India, but also to different parts of the globe. When the perfumes are sold inside our own country, it is called internal trade.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was a short sample of one of the notebook videos. On our website www.notebook.school, you would find more than 10,000 such videos catering to every topic from every chapter and every subject of classes 1 to 12 of the CBSE curriculum. I hope you find it useful. Well, with that done, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to dive in to the topic for the day, day boarding. Years ago, when a lot of us were in school, there were two kinds of schools. There were the residential schools and there were non-residential schools. As family structures evolved, we have now seen the evolution of a new kind of school called the day-come boarding school or the day boarding school. These schools offer activities to the children beyond the class timings and perhaps allow greater engagement of the teacher with the school students inside the school campuses. We have a stellar lineup panel. I beg your pardon, we have a stellar panel lined up for you today. And without much ado, let me introduce the first speaker today. Our first speaker is Mr. Philip Barrick. Mr. Barrick retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrick served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Barrick qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. Sir, privileged to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubayu. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, sir, perfectly.
Thank you. So as Shubayu put it very well, if you look at the day boarding system, it actually falls between the two systems that we knew before, the boarding system and the day school system. And therefore, the day boarding school aspires to bring together the best of both systems while not exactly being one of them. In the 90s, I had a colleague who left the school I was working in and started the Vasant Valley School in Delhi. And I think, in my memory, this was the first day boarding concept that maybe the country knew, or at least I knew. So schools either start off from day one being day boarding schools, or there are boarding schools that turn into day boarding schools because they open their doors to day scholars. But I've never heard of a day school, a purely day school, turning into a day boarding school, because there are just too many infrastructural changes that will have to be made. Now, there are different patterns of day boarding schools. I have seen some where they allow students back every day. There are some that allow students back on weekends, and others that allow students back once a month. In fact, you can have a school. I know Pathways allows all these three. You can choose to be a day boarder, you can be a weekly boarder, you can be a monthly boarder. Now, let's take a look at the best things that day schools have to offer. Now, day schools offer a good, solid academic program. They have some hobbies and activities, but nothing as much as what boarding schools have. And the reason behind this is that they don't have the staff to stay back after school to run these activities. Let's be honest, a lot of day school teachers would have their tuition classes. They need to go and do their tutorials. So it's difficult to keep a day school teacher back after 2 p.m. The other thing that concerns parents in a purely day school is the transport system. Now, these kids are going by buses, they're going by auto rickshaws, their private cars, even cycling. And parents are very, very worried about safety, especially in large metros. And so a lot of time is spent, a lot of energy is spent in transporting the kids to school every day and back. Of course, the most desirable aspect of a purely day school is that family life is preserved and the children come back at the end of each day. And of course, they have the family dinners and those get-togethers and regular visits to the grandparents and functions in the family. On the other hand, a purely residential school doesn't allow any permission to travel home, whatever. No religious, no family business, nothing. And therefore, kids lose out on 50th wedding anniversaries, parents' anniversaries, and all those things. And sometimes you're in school for up to 8 to 9 months, not at a stretch, you have a break. But in the early days, it was 9 months at a stretch and 3 months holidays. Today, of course, parents visit boarding schools far more often because there's the ease of transport, better cars, better roads. And so the boarding system is gradually changing into more or less a day boarding school. Now, the main advantages of a boarding school, a residential school, is that you have the entire package, which comes under the envelope of education, under one roof. So it's the academics, there's the sports, there's a very, very complete menu of the co-curricular activities, which is done in school. And even if you're not in the first 11 of a team, you can still play. In fact, you have to play. Every kid has a chance to play all sport, all activities. And that is what a day school doesn't offer. In a day school, if you have to play for the school 11, cricket or whatever, or even do a drama, you would have to stay back after school. And not many students can stay back because they're into their own tuitions. They want to go to their tennis academies. So in a boarding school, everybody gets a chance to play. And parents, of course, are at ease knowing that their children are being taken care of by responsible elders. In a boarding school, children have a huge variety, as I said earlier, a plethora of activities to choose from. So kids find themselves here. They can excel in something or the other. Of course, it's a very rigorous routine. Life starts at 6 a.m. and sometimes runs in late into the night with drama practices and extra studies. Now, there is also that factor of character building, long-lasting friendships, being part of famous alumni groups, um, um, and all the pranks that they get up to when the lights go off, even jumping the wall and having midnight feasts are all part of the excitement of a boarding school. Boarding schools are safe places. And the general fear that parents have on substances and other things, of course, it's creeping in, is kept to a minimum. Kids don't go home and join bad company. They are in school, cloistered within the four walls, and that's their home for 9 months. Of course, parents have to pay a rather large package, anything up from 5 lakhs to 15 lakhs a year for this sort of education. Now, boarding schools are still popular if a family has a boy and a girl studying in two boarding schools that are sister brother schools, or at least located nearby. Because boarding schools generally tend to be single sex schools, while day schools and even day boarding schools tend to be co educational. Now, the day boarding concept, as I said earlier, tends to bridge the gap between these two extreme systems, day and boarding. Now, to begin with, a day boarding system is far cheaper because they don't have the large overhead infrastructural costs. They don't have that many staff on the pastoral and extracurricular staff, the ground staff. Boarding schools are huge affairs, over 140, 200, 400 acres. They need a lot of people looking after this property. Day boarding schools offer a fine education. Children have lunch, tea, and snacks in school. They do a lot of activities from about 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So they get a plethora of activities. They also get to do their homework. They also have teachers around who they can consult, get counsel by, and they have that boarding school sort of connect with their teachers. And finally, they are dropped home each evening by bus, which is a big thing for parents in metro cities. And the parents get to see these children and become a happy family at the end of each day. Yes, there's much to be said about family life and living under one roof with one's siblings. I, for one, am still I still doubt the benefits of a boarding school against a day boarding school, because I really feel that children need their families. And parents become far more important in the character development and value formation for these children, unlike boarding schools where the teachers are more important. Sitting at a dining hall had its own fun. But sitting at home, eating home cooked food and warm chapatis is what students really want. Now, these schools, the day boarding schools, cater best to parents in metro cities who are both working, have busy schedules, and leave home at about 9 o'clock in the morning and return at 6 p.m. They want their children to be safe, they want them to have a full education, and they also want them to be dropped home. Now, these students studying in their home states can also avail of domiciliary status when it comes to joining engineering and law colleges in those states. So, home is a place where students come to sleep and meet their parents and eat. Now, there is no homework in day boarding school. You complete that homework in day. You don't carry books back at all. Books are kept in school. Now, there's still time to watch movies, visit relations, go out for dinner. What they do not get are those boarding school ties, because they do not sleep and eat and live in the same dormitory with their friends for 6 to 8 years. That bonding seems to be missing. And again, as I said, another big point of day boarding schools is that parents can put both their children, especially if they're a girl and a boy, in one place, one school. It's so much more convenient. I've known of parents to have their children in boarding schools, one in Rajasthan and one in Uttarakhand, and they have to shuffle between these two states, long distance. So that being said, all schools, whether day or day boarding, still have alumni associations, and students are very loyal to these institutions and do very well in sport and competitive examinations. So let it not be said that day boarding schools are any inferior to day schools or boarding schools. They're not. Like regular day scholars, these students can avail of tuition classes and seek professional help with college admissions, and are more aware of the ways of the world as they mix with more children of other schools. They socialize a lot more. This is again a negative point in boarding schools. They're very insular. Children don't mix with many other schools. You're cloistered. There is also that fear that some children can run astray and ruin themselves by not doing anything except from partying. And that, of course, is the fear of day boarding schools. Children can get lost and do nothing. But that's also a fear in boarding schools, although it's much less. Over the last 10 to 15 years, I have seen a decline in the boarding school niche. The boarding schools have declined. Admission rates are gradually dwindling. Fees, on the other hand, have gradually risen. And now it's beyond the reach of some of the middle class parents. The value of these schools has dropped now because they seem to live in their past reputation. While day boarding schools are a new concept, they are very modern, they have all the facilities, and they're challenging the boarding schools. That's why one of the reasons why boarding schools are not getting enough good children is because they choose to go to the good day boarding schools. And many good boarding schools like Delhi College, La Martiniere College, Bishop Cotton schools have all turned from being purely full boarding schools into offering a day boarding, because parents who can't afford the fees of a boarding school would prefer a day boarding system. And I think with that, I have tried to explain what my concept of a day boarding school is. Having never taught in one, I taught in a day school and I taught in a boarding school. So I suggest that, I assume that a day boarding school would be a happy mix between the two, taking the best of both. And with that, thank you very much. I did not wish the notebook staff and the panel members and our listeners a very good evening, but I'm doing so now. Thank you very much, and back to you, Shabai.
Thank you so much, sir. This week, just like every other week before this, we stand to benefit from the immense experience that you bring to this seminar. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CP Australia. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, Shiva. Good evening, everyone. Shiva, am I audible?
Loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which is really contemporary and relevant in today's age. India has always boasted of a rich tradition in the area of learning and education since ancient times. It is well known that people from other nations such as Europe, Middle East, and Portugal came to India to get a quality education. One of the famous educational systems practiced in India in ancient times was the Gurukul system. Now, of course, we'll come back to this and we'll discuss as to where our topic for the day is exactly placed. I was listening to Barrick's deliberation, very interesting deliberation, and I was listening to it. Some very good points Sir made. Just to add to that, now, a day boarder is a student who remains in the school for extended hours, having their meal, taking part in activities, doing their preparation in the boarding house, but they do not stay overnight. They're often allocated a study space in the boarding house, but they do not stay there overnight. Now, previously, with the joint family framework, bringing up a kid was not as stressful or as troublesome an accomplishment with extended family support, guardians, aunties, uncles, grandparents, everybody helped. And children also benefited tremendously, immensely from this family support. And also, if you look at things few decades back, in most cases, there's one parent at home to take care of the child. However, in today's times, nuclear families in cities, young parents, and both of them working, and with extended families and grandparents reluctant to settle down in cities, leaving their old neighborhood and their own social circle, keeping an eye on youngsters indeed become very difficult. It's really a big challenge. Very recently, I'll tell you a real incident. Today, when I was listening to Barrick's deliberation, suddenly I remembered, and this was, if my memory serves me correct, this was just a couple of years back. One of my friends, who was earlier based overseas, he came back to India. And he and his wife, both of them, being very busy professionals, were involved in scientific research. When they came back to India, it so happened that the city in which they were based out of, they had no extended family support, and their working hours very often stretched till late hours of the evening. So when they are looking for a school for their two school-going children, for them, I guess one of the prime criteria that they had in their mind, or what they were exactly looking at, was a day boarding school. They are very clear that at the end of the day, in the dinner table, they wanted their kids around them. There was an emotional factor, also because they knew that their kids, who had spent so many years abroad, literally they were born and raised abroad, they knew that they might face socio-cultural issues if completely left to themselves in a boarding school. So they wanted to ensure that they're around. They wanted to ensure that the kids stay with them. They wanted to spend those weekends with them, tell them about Indian culture, take them to places. At the same time, they also knew that practically it is impossible for them to come back early from work every day and give them time during those long afternoons. So I remember that the prime consideration for them at that point of time was to go for a day boarding school. So thus, at times when both parents are occupied at work and with less time for children at home, especially during working days. So what happens practically, if you look at this, children also suffer in isolation, suffer without support. Because leaving children at completely under the care of domestic helps is something that many parents are not comfortable with. And for children also, without any family member around, without any teacher around, without any friends around. So what happens is a kind of isolation, a kind of depression sets in, which may not be good for their own psychological growth. Because at the end of the day, it's really important, unless until the child is happy, it is really difficult for him or her to concentrate and to do well in studies. So this entire concept of day boarding school, to my mind, really combines the unique advantages of a day school and a boarding school. And the way I look at it, I guess both of them have their own unique niche or unique advantages. It's very difficult to say that one is better than the other. It also depends on individual needs, preferences, etc. We all understand that as far as a boarding school is concerned, if you look at the advantages of a boarding school, really number of advantages, right? For instance, accessibility with teachers, round the clock accessibility with teachers, longer hours. Also, great bonding between peers, the opportunity of round the clock peer-to-peer learning, focus on co-curricular activities, which I guess is a very, very important point. As Butts also mentioned, that every child gets an opportunity to play every sport. So this really creates lifelong memories. This helps in development of unique skill sets, development of attributes and attitude. Skills like team building, skills like caring, sharing are lifelong virtues. Also the kind of discipline, the kind of proactivity that boarding schools can bring in, where students are responsible to take care of themselves without any kind of extra support or pampering that many of them do receive at home. So these are undoubtedly unique advantages. Having said that, if you look at things from the perspective of parents, at times for emotional reasons, or say for instance, a particular child needs extra attention, medical help, or for other reasons, practically sending every child to boarding school may not be possible. Plus the expense factor also that Butts mentioned. I think very, very relevant factor. Very relevant factor. Also, when students, they go back home at the end of the day, spend time with parents, spend time with long weekends, etc. The entire support system that is brought in by parents, extended family, friends, peers, that also has a huge role in a child's overall growth. Thus, if you look at both this, day boarding undoubtedly is a very preferred option, which combines the best features of both. So recently, I was going through a study which was conducted in Australia, a very interesting study, in fact. So in this particular study, and this was based on a survey which was, and in this particular survey, more than 2,800 students were interviewed. And the whole objective of this survey was to find out the performance of day school students vis-a-vis those in boarding schools, and also some schools which had day scholars as well as boarders were taken as sample. So the whole survey was designed to look at three things, very specific three things. First, level of motivation of a particular student. Is the student motivated enough? That is a very, very important part of the whole survey. So students' motivation level was checked in details through a set of questions. Second was the engagement factor. Is the student sufficiently engaged when it comes to his or her studies? And third is, what was the outcome? What is the achievement? And when we say achievement, not only in terms of academic scores, but holistic achievement in terms of extracurriculars, other activities, overall development of the child. And there's a very systematic survey done with a lot of patients and research, a very thorough questionnaire I was going through. And in this particular survey, around 480 boarding school students and around 2,300 day school students were interviewed. And this survey was, as I told you, done in Australia. So basically, more than 6 Australian high schools were involved. And a lot of other factors were also taken into account. For example, effect of attribute, and personality in overall results. And this survey very interestingly found, and this is really interesting, very interestingly found that contrary to popular perception, there is a predominant parity between boarding and day students in terms of motivation, engagement, and achievement. So these are three critical matrices, three critical CTQs, as we say: motivation, engagement, and achievement. So there's a predominant parity. So meaning to say that irrespective of the fact that whether a student was a day scholar or a boarder, a lot of other factors were also equally important. So the overall outcome did not only depend on the fact that whether a student is a day scholar or a boarder. And in both the groups, overall performance in these three parameters, motivation, engagement, and achievement, showed very similar patterns. So this clearly shows that both of these have their own unique advantages and disadvantages, which tend to neutralize each other. So whilst one may promote better academic outcomes or extracurricular opportunities, the other at the same time may facilitate better emotional support from the family, overall support system. And the implications of this survey were discussed in detail with students, parents, and teachers. So I feel in today's age, if we look at the entire structure, with, as Bert was also mentioning, that practically a lot of schools have changed from being full boarding schools to day boarding. And also other factors coming in. Undoubtedly, day boarding, the way I look at it, is a middle path with best of both the worlds. Undoubtedly, if you look at things from parents' perspective, and that too working parents, young working parents who are migrants in a city, staying in a nuclear family, staying in a housing society or an apartment where they have very little support system, and the child comes back home in the afternoon with nobody to take care of, indeed it is a practical challenge for them. So if the child spends longer hours at the school under the care and supervision of teachers who may help in terms of better preparation, in terms of homework, and also peer-to-peer interaction, because in today's age, with evolving pedagogy, it's absolutely clear that peer-to-peer interaction or peer-to-peer learning is the best possible form of learning. So within the extended hours that students are spending in the school, and instead of coming back home and being all by themselves in the school, the fact that they are being able to interact with their peers, walk up to the teacher, that definitely does a world of difference. And undoubtedly, at the end of the day, when parents come home, at the dinner table, I think Birds very appropriately mentioned that they're a happy family. So this really combines the best of both worlds. So these are a few things that I wanted to highlight in this very important and interesting topic. We have a great panel lined up today, and I also look forward to hear from them with regard to their views on this. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on today's topic. But I believe even after Mr. Barrett and Achin have spoken, the jury is still out. So let's hear from the stellar panel we have today and see if we can make up our minds about day boarding schools. As Achin mentioned before me, we do indeed have a stellar panel lined up for you today. So bear with me for a few minutes while I introduce them. We have with us today Mrs. Sasmita Mohanty, who is currently working as the Director Principal of Sanjay Ghodawat International School in Kolhapur, Maharashtra. The school is affiliated to Cambridge University, UK, and she takes pride in heading the school with 4,000 students, 350 teachers, and 600 non-teaching staff. She is also the founder of the Kolhapur Sahodaya Complex, a cluster of CBSE schools. She was one amongst 15 educators who were selected for training in Singapore by Worldview and Singapore Airlines. She received the appreciation letter from erstwhile Honorable HR Minister, Mrs. Smriti Irani, for 3 times for giving excellent result in social science as a subject teacher and as principal of the school. She has received the CBSE Sports Promotion Award, the Mentor Conclave Best Teacher in the World Nation's Vikas Jyoti Award with Medical Science Olympiad Foundation, Avantika Shakuntalam Samman, District Level Bharatiya Sahitya Samman, Shikshak Ratna Award, Shikshak Bharati Puraskar, Best Teacher Award, National Young Minds Movement Resources Network, Outstanding Leadership Qualities and Dedication in Field of Education, Inter-School Quiz Contest, Vijayawant Quiz Contest Leadership, Vision and Guidance Towards Science, Maths, Computers, and English Performance Excellence Award. She has received the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Outstanding Principal Award in 2016, Adarsh Vidya Saraswati Rashtriya Purashkar by Global Management Council Global Teachers Convention 2016, Global Teacher Role Model Award 2016, 100 Highly Effective Principals of the Year 2016, Progressive Principals of India 2017, Visionary School Edu Leaders of India 2017, and Avantika Dr. S. Radhakrishnan Samman 2018, amongst many, many others. Her school, the Sanjay Ghodawat International School, incidentally, was one of the schools that participated in the 0-hour online international inter-school debate, and the students performed phenomenally well. This is a school we know well, and ma'am, it's a privilege to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for being here. We also have with us Dr. Ranjan Roy. Dr. Roy holds an MA in economics, a B.Ed, and a PhD in economics. He has a vast experience of over 20 years in education. He started as a PGT in economics and has been a housemaster, hostel in charge, and vice principal. He has worked in Chamanvatika Residential Public School, Ambala, as vice principal for over 6 years before taking over as principal of the same school. He then took over as principal of the Dayawati Modi Academy in Varanasi in the year 2008. He is also the president of the Varanasi Sahodaya Schools Complex Forum of CBSE School Principals for the last 8 years. He also received appreciation letter in the year 2014 from CBSE and for 2 consecutive years in 2014 and 15 from the Ministry of HRD Government of India. 2 years ago, Sri Anurag Tripathi, Secretary CBSE, had conferred the Mahamanya Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya Samman to Dr. Roy in presence of Dean Faculty of Education BHU for his contribution in the field of school education. He is also the empaneled resource person for training program of Center of Excellence, COE, CBSE, Prayagraj. Sir, privileged to have you back on the panel. We are also privileged to have with us today Mrs. Poonam Saxena, who has 23 years of teaching experience and 13 years of administrative experience in various schools. She teaches biology and science and is currently the principal. She was herself a bright student with active participation in co-curricular activities, a student council leader, and is a trained Kathak dancer. She has received the Inspiring Leader Award by Rockport twice, Most Effective Principal 2016, Rabindranath Tagore Samman 2019, ISA Award as Leader for Adding the International Dimension by British Council 2018, Strategic Leadership Course from XRI Jamshedpur 2018. She's hosted TEDx talks at her school in the year 2019 and traveled extensively abroad and participated in exchange programs of schools in the UK and Australia. However, despite all her international travels, she remains a proud Indian and a nationalist at the core. Well, that was honestly a very brief introduction of 3 absolutely luminaries that we have with us today. I'm going to stop my share now, start the video so that we can see each other. Once again, Mrs. Mohanty, Dr. Roy, Mrs. Saxena, thank you so much for being here. It's an absolute privilege to have you on the panel. If you could unmute yourselves, that would really help.
Yeah,
Dr.
good
Roy,
evening, everybody.
Good evening, ma'am. Saxena, ma'am, if you can hear me, if you could unmute yourself, please. Ma'am, you're still on mute.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Absolutely thrilled to have all of you. Thank you so much, sir. Good evening. My first question, and I'll go around the table with this, the virtual table, so to speak, and I will start with Mrs. Mohanty. Ma'am, the school that you currently head, is it a day boarding school? And what is your personal take on this whole day boarding system?
Okay. So first of all, I would like to congratulate Notebook because pandemic, the wonderful debate program which was going on continuously, it made most of my students and myself engaged and motivated, because it was wonderful to watch these young children speaking out their mind and debating. So my heartiest congratulations to Notebook and the organizer and the management of Notebook. And once again, I would like to thank for giving me this opportunity to be one of the panelists for this important discussion. If personally it is asked to me, in fact, this is the first day boarding school I'm heading. All my years earlier, wherever I have worked only in boarding schools. And this school, when I came, it was just a day school. And what Mr. Philippe was telling, that how the day school is being converted to day boarding school, it happened with our school. So initially, when it was a day school, we had the school up to 3 o'clock. And then the extended hours and facilities and all those things started growing depending on the demands of the parents. But frankly speaking, as I have worked in both the schools, as it was told by Mr. Achin, that they both have their merits and demerits. When it comes to day boarding school, we find the quality of students coming in academically, they're better than the boarding school. The discipline part, it also is better than boarding school. Then when we say that the involvement of the parents and sharing the responsibility with the school, that is in fact more visible in day boarding school. And day boarding school has become the requirement of today's, and this model is going to work very successful in future. Maybe the boarding also will work because most of the parents today are working parents, and they don't have time. Even after they come back at home also, there is no time. So maybe in future course of time, I feel parents would prefer to send their children to boarding more than day boarding. But fortunately, we are running both the schools in this campus. We have a boarding school where we have full-fledged 700 students, and we have day boarding school where we have around 2,100 students. And there are, besides that, there are other branch of, international schools where there are more number of children are there. So it all depend, what are your vision? What do you want to do? What for you stand? So all those things are very, very important. And depending on that, whichever school you choose, that is going to be beneficial and making a difference when it comes to the purpose of giving education or creating good human beings, or whatever you want to do with the youth of tomorrow. So, in day boarding school like us, there are children, those that travel long distances. I have students traveling every day up and down around 40 kilometers or sometimes 60 kilometers up and down, 30 and 30 up and down. So they travel all the way just because they want to get good quality education. But then they waste so much of time in traveling. That is a biggest concern. But then when it comes to the level of competition, academic delivery, then it comes to sports, because we have even the sports facilities after the school hours for the day boarding students. So we keep extracurricular activities for the students after the school, which continue for 1.5 hours. We have divided our classes, because I'm sharing whatever we do in our school, and it is working out successfully. And maybe it would be useful for many of the listeners and many of the educationists, how the day boarding school could be useful. So we have actually in day boarding school, children do not get sufficient time for sports. So if the children are interested in sports, then most of the boarding school, they have a lot of time. They have evening sports, they have morning sports, and that become a very, very challenging in day boarding school. But if the working could be done in such a manner, for example, in our school, we have a section which is called as a sports section. So in that sports section, what we do, we those children, those that are interested in sports, we put them together in that section, and then we start making them to have extra hour for sports. So they go to the moment they arrive in school, they go to the sports. We have different variety of sporting facilities for students, and the coaches would be ready on the ground in different arenas, and the children, they go and join there and they have the practice. And the teachers, those they go there to teach the children in the class, they're well prepared that they're dealing with the sports children. So they need to deal in a different methods than what they do with the students, those they are very much focused in their academics. So there is a class for, there is a section where the higher level of maths and science is given for the students. And they have been focused, they are interested only in academics, so we cater for them in that manner. Then there are co-curricular activities section. Somebody is very much interested in becoming good orator, somebody is interested in quizzing, somebody is interested in MU, and so we have a section for that. So there are means teachers, they go and then they train the students depending on their interest. And everywhere we see that we maintain a balance between their academics and their other interest. So it's very essential that you have the right kind of teachers along with you, those they understand the vision and the expectations of the parents and the expectations from the school. So when happens, so then the things work. But the only thing is that what we spend a lot of time in serving children their breakfast, lunch, evening snacks. So every time they go to the dining hall, there a lot of time is spent. When they travel, there is a lot of time. But overall, what we see that there are a lot of benefits for this. There is a healthy competition. There is sharing of the responsibility of the parents with the institution. There is a good performance. When we compare the performance of the day school and the boarding school, we find out always the day boarding school performance academically is much better than the boarding school. When we compare with the sports performance of the day boarding school and the boarding school, we find the sports performance of the boarding school is much better than the day school. So this is how means parents do not have to rely on any other tuition classes, because in day boarding school, in case of us, our teachers for boarding school and day boarding school, there are separate set of teachers, but all of them, they stay on campus. So then after the school hours, when extended duties are there for co-curricular activities or sports or for coaching for the competitive examinations, all those things, the teachers are available. So that gives us to run a day boarding school in a successful way, or successful model of day boarding school we have. And at the same time, the boarding school, as I said, character building. I mean, we could build good character and expect them to be well-disciplined boarding school students. There is a lot of bonding between teachers and students. All those things happens in boarding school. In the same way, I also feel that the bonding even between the parents and teachers and students happens in day boarding school. It depends on the approach of the teachers and the way with the parents and the students, that also lead to bonding. So this is what I would say, that day boarding school helpful up to a certain extent, where parents, they don't want to keep their children in complete boarding. They want to keep their children in a school where the school takes care of each and every responsibility, but to have their dinner and to sleep at home, they come back home. Our children really go back home to sleep and to have dinner. Otherwise, they're there from morning 7:30 till evening 5:30, and then after that, their travel time, they reach when the parents reach home, the children reach home. So this is what I can share with all of you about the day boarding school.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Roy, if I may come to you next. So you've been a housemaster yourself, uh, and I believe I can combine two questions here. Your personal take and advantages, disadvantages, particularly as ma'am was doing vis-a-vis boarding schools.
First of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Team Notebook, especially Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya and Subhayu Roy. I quite often when I get time, I just go through all the previous session of Notebook. This is probably the 78th session. A few days before, I was going through 75th session on YouTube channel. So these are really praiseworthy sessions. We get a lot of experience when we go through all these time and again. So maybe something I have missed earlier one, but now this time I'm meticulously observing and following all those things. So this is wonderful. The nice contribution during this difficult time by Notebook. So a lot of appreciation for Notebook for that. Now coming to this today's topic, what we have taken up, that day boarding versus boarding. Now, I'll tell you that I was housemaster, that's true. But at the same time, I'll start a little before that. You know, I have spent almost 10 years in hostel. So it's my first-hand experience as well, not only supervision of school and school children. So it is a situation which I can express by giving quite common example, glass half empty or half filled up with water, or a coin has got two sides. So I'm neither pro to day boarding nor against boarding. So I find that both the system has got its advantages, or I don't feel that day boarding has got edge over boarding, or boarding or residential school has got edge over day boarding. Although Mrs. Mohanty has explained the thing in detail, that is a typical kind of amalgamation of a school system, whereby day boarding, extended day boarding, as well as residential setup that is there, and they are fully occupied or equipped with the faculty, as she has clearly explained. And before that, many things have been put across by Mr. Barrick as well as Achin Bhattacharyya. So since I have spent almost 10 years in hostel, so I also agree that the kind of community feeling, lifelong bonding, then a kind of decision making, a kind of independence, all these advantages are there. But at the same time, there are certain things for which these days boarding house, they also pamper the children. I'll cite one example. I remember vividly the name of the student also. I don't hesitate to take the name. Girija Sood was a student from Indonesia, and she was talking about, I need a tissue paper which is a make of tisa. No other tissue paper will work. Now, management has provided that kind of tissue paper. So it is not required, probably a kind of pampering which was done. And there is some commercial motive, there is some business motive as well, which probably some other parents of the boarder may not afford to. So that way, as I said, that I am not I'm not ambassador of day boarding or residential school, but I have experienced both the situations. So that's why I said both the system has got some pluses and some minuses. Like if I talk about boarding school, we know commonly it is a little more expensive than day boarding. And reason is also quite obvious, because for boarding school, child is going for 6 hours or so in school. And if it is extended boarding, maybe 8 hours. But for residential school, it is, for 24/7, if not 365 days, because of summer or winter bound school, depending upon all the vacations, religious or festive times, whatever closed days are there, they are the responsibility of the that particular school, right from morning breakfast till suffer in the night, whatever. So that way, if they are falling sick, even then that is to be attended by the hostel warden or dorm parent or whatsoever the system is, structured system. So that way, I find, of course, there are many advantages in the day boarding school, vis-a-vis many disadvantages too. At the same time, in boarding house also, many skills children are acquiring, and which is probably as a single parent, others, one parent cannot provide, but under one umbrella, many things are provided in boarding system. And many brainstorming, many odd experiments, children are learning many things, lot of fun. And at times, because of their playful nature also, they come out with excellent ideas. So that way, I have experienced both the situations. But at times, if boarding house, if you are not, as a parent, if you are not very careful while choosing a boarding school, maybe your decision will not be the right one. Second thing, when you are sending a child in a boarding house, you need to think about your requirement, your situation. You need to think about the age of the child. And in India, that we are not getting co-ed boarding school are very less in number. Like boarding school are outnumbering the residential school. Day boarding schools are outnumbering the residential schools. Similarly, co-ed boarding schools are also less in number in our country. So that way, this respect to opposite gender, how to give respect to the working place later on their life, there are probably certain things which are missing in boarding school. Then for pastoral care and other things, you are depending on somebody else, where I believe parents are the best person to take care of their own children, whatever way they wish to see that their upbringing of the children will be taking place. So that way, I have come across both the types of situations. So a lot of pluses are there, a lot of minuses are there in both the system, school system, day boarding as well as residential. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Poonam ma'am, I'll come to you next. This is when I start attacking the situation from the other side. Would you consider day boarding advantages or disadvantages vis-a-vis purely day schools? Ma'am, you're still on mute.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And it was really, really enlightening to hear Philip sir, Achin sir, Mohanty ma'am and Roy sir, because my experience in a boarding school is nil. All I have seen is, all I have heard from, if somebody from the family or some colleague, or then programs like this, which is a wonderful learning experience for all the educationists. And I think the best part of this pandemic has been these webinars conducted by various organizations. And I will give the best webinar series prize to the notebook, because the topics are so wonderful. Like sometimes you don't even think, and when the people start speaking, then, oh, that's a wonderful topic, and then the enlightenment which we get. And then there's always some takeaway. And as leaders, we have to imbibe all the things which are happening in the system. So when we get so many new ideas, we can definitely improve our own schools. So coming to the point regarding day boarding, I'll say that the society is undergoing change. And school, being an integral part of the society, also need changes, because the students who are coming to the schools, their requirement, their grooming, their holistic development cannot be done completely within the framework of the normal school hours. So I feel that the midway between the residential and the day school is a day boarding school. In the cases when the parents are working, both the parents are working, it's like a heaven for them when they know that their children are safe. So it doesn't begin from the middle school, or it begins right from the play school. We have seen that so many play schools have day boarding facilities. And if you leave your small kid with a ayah or a babysitter at home, you're always under stress. But then when you are sending them to a day boarding school, which is run by professionals, and all the facilities regarding the safety, the nutrition, the hygiene, and the engagement of the children in a positive manner that enhances their personality is taken care of. So I think day boarding are going to stay, and if they are competitive in their fee structure, so they are going to make a bigger success, because many of the parents, because we all know, if both the parents are working, then the financials are better. But then with a single parent earning, it is difficult to pay for two children for a day boarding school. But then I tell you that we talk about the 21st century learning, collaboration, communication. So all these things can be very, very easily incorporated in the planning of the school. Planning means when the children are engaging after the school hours in informal conditions with their teachers, so their leadership skills are developing. They are able to work on various projects which are not feasible in the school hours, because school hours, the academic pressure is so much. Then second thing, what I feel, because sometimes we have those extended hour programs, but not always for the remediation. So I think the day boarding is very, very good for the children for remediation, because the same teacher who is teaching in the morning knows exactly where the child is lacking. So in the day boarding extended hours, they can definitely work on only that point. But if a child goes to another tuition center, then again the time is also lost, and then he's in a different environment. So it is a very good thing that whatever the teacher wants to do in the normal classroom, whatever he or she is not able to do, they can definitely do in a day boarding setup. Then of course everybody spoke about the sports facilities, about the co-curricular, cultural, and so many things. But then I think some of them, they spoke about the alumni, the bonding which the children they create. So when they are in an informal setting, the bonding is definitely more. They feel the responsibility. The younger ones are under the care of the senior ones. So that kind of I'll say that that kind of relationship is built, that the children, they become they look at the society as a positive contributions. And a lot of outreach programs which can also be conducted very easily in a daycare setting, because the children do not have to rush back at 2 o'clock, and they can do a lot of social work in a group where they are safe, and they are guided by the teachers. So I'll say that the personality really, really unfurls, and the child really starts I'll say the personality is definitely. And we all know that confidence is one thing everybody is talking. Even the new education policy talks about that 21st century skill and communication and collaboration. So when the children are given that space, the time, why will they not cultivate that? So I think that day boarding is something which is new, not new, but then it is going to stay in our system, because the society needs that, the students needs that, the parents needs that. And of course, the way which we are looking at our country coming as the education hub. A few days ago, Prime Minister was saying that people will come from abroad to study in India, the medical colleges and all that. So, and I think Ranjan sir mentioned about a girl studying from outside in his school. So I think we have been our ancient India talks about Nalanda University and all those, where the people used to come, and I think that history is going to repeat. So with quality education, if we are able to give to the children and raise responsible citizens, I think we are doing a good job. So this is all I think I can say and add to the about the day boarding system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First, let me just respond to the thank you that you all gave to Notebook. Trust me, the privilege has been entirely ours. We were a bunch of professionals who gave up our corporate career to do something in education because we felt that something needed to be done. But over these last 7.5 episodes now, the kind of learning that we have received, we now understand more about our education system. The kind of learning has been absolutely phenomenal for us, and we could not be more thankful. Uh, Having said that, let's address the elephant or the virus in the room. I will come to Dr. Roy first. Sir, we spoke about day boarding, and this is perhaps true to a large extent for boarding schools as well. With the current COVID situation, a lot of parents are hesitant to send their students to the school as it is. Now, in a day boarding system, the time spent in the school is going to be much higher. So, should a day boarding school have a larger problem with this, that parents would be hesitant to spend their students?
It's a good question. But here I have seen, like, here are few schools here in Varanasi, few schools are there. Those who are having their residential setup as well as extended day boarding setup also. So, parents were also quite disturbed in the initial days, but when UP government has given order that you can open senior section of the school 9 to 12th, and I do remember one of the webinar just after 2-3 days it was there, 16th of October. Before that I joined in one of the webinars. So then we started, and recently from Lucknow we got the order that even boarding house can also be opened up. So all the hostels, local administration has taken all the collected all the statistics, all the data, and after that they have allowed us, and their personnel have reached to each and every school, and after that they checked whether the arrangement is proper or not. Even parents were also requested to go and visit the school if they are happy and if they feel that COVID norms which is fulfilled by all the schools, then only they can send. And after that we have given Google form, and we got a huge response. And after that, when we have given full-fledged terms and conditions, a kind of undertaking, even then also we got a lot of positive feedback. And after that, students, they started pouring into all those schools where this extended day boarding as well as residential setup is there. So that way, it may not be 100% as it was not expected also, but 60% parents, they have faith in the school system, and after that they started sending their kids, because they have seen before that, prior to that, in those schools, compartmental examination of CBSE, then NEET examination, and after that recently CTET examination have also been conducted. And seeing all this, and as it was opened in phased manner, and there was luckily there was not even a single case of COVID reported here in this area. So people are relying on school system. All the school management have taken these COVID norms very seriously, because CBSE has issued a separate guideline, whose guideline also we have got action plan of private school associations, their guideline, plus local administration, whatever guideline they have sent to us, we all have followed that. So now parents, they are having the faith. And moreover, whenever our teachers are going for quality circle time with the parents and students, views of parents were that, children are becoming, they have become tech savvy, and all the time they are with mobile. So we also want screen time to reduce. If school is allowing to send our kids, they will be happy. And second thing, children were also jumping whenever they are saying their teachers are with them. So that way we got very good response, and administration also has given a lot of support. And that way people are now ready, parents are ready, and they are sending. First of next month, even 5th to standard 1 nursery KG, they are also allowed as per the government circular. So we all are ready. Parents are also eager to send, not 100% of course, but we are not at this point of time, we are not very sure. Mother teacher classes in our school system, we continue up to 2nd standard mother teacher classes. So nursery KG or lower KG, upper KG, first and second, whether they will be sending or not, we are not very sure. Although after giving this Google format, we got consent of 30% of the parents, they will be sending, but rest of them are waiting to see what others are doing. So that kind of faith we need to gain, so that snowball effect will take place. Seeing 10 others, maybe 25 other parents will also be sending their kids. But administration has strictly given the order, COVID norms are to be fulfilled. Only then you will be allowed, and they have engaged certain personnel to keep an eye whether all the schools are following the norms or not. So that way everyone has taken it seriously. And very lately when this Mr. Dr. Guleria, I believe is the name, AIMS director, has told that strain virus is going to be more dangerous than the earlier one. Even immunity after taking this COVID vaccination also, you may not be 100% sure that you will not be infected further. So that way also administration is taking a lot of measure, and school authority is also viewing this thing very seriously. So that way we are getting 60% approximately positive feedback from the parent, and they are also eager to send their kids up to middle school. For the primary and lower section of the school, we are yet to see that how many percentage, although 40% or so through Google form, and after giving the detailed undertaking, we got the response. So that is the situation as of now during this unlockdown period. People are little scared, and everyone wishes to see what the what decision other parents are going to take. So that way, it is only we need to wait for a few more days, and picture will be clear before us. Let us hope for the best, that children are coming to school, we all enjoy, and without children, schools are not looking like schools. So that is the reason we all so eager to see, but yet with lot of safety norms. That is there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Mr.
Mrs. Mohanty, if I may come to you next. Maharashtra is in a very precarious situation. We are getting not so great reports about Maharashtra. And yours is one of the largest day boarding schools in the state. What has been the response to students coming back to school?
Actually, we had initially, a lot of apprehension from the side of the parents. The way Mr. Ranjan Roy explained, we did the same thing. We conducted meeting for the parents, and the day we got the information from the parents that we are from the government that we are allowed to start the school. So we send the Google form survey, and most of the parents they send their response that they are eagerly waiting to send their children to school. We followed all the COVID norms we started, and at present we are running a school, means the classes from grade 4 to grade 12. And at this situation also, though there are cases rising in Bombay and Pune and other places, there is a little bit of fear among the parents, but still the school is on, children are coming, and we are open with online and offline. And we thought that, okay, fine, now so much of news is going on, and maybe there would be, parents would be liking to keep their children back at home. But then we are observing from past 5-6 days, the strength is not reducing. So the children are coming to school, and we have got beautiful, very expanded infrastructure. Because of the infrastructure and huge ground and play arena for the children. So because of this expanded infrastructure, we are able to manage social distancing. We are able to manage their breakfast, lunch, and everything with groups, sending them in small groups, having a different, entirely we have worked out a different timetable for them. Even our boarding house also is full with the students, all the parents. They have a lot of trust on our management, particularly on our chairman, because he never compromises for anything. So that's the reason children are in boarding school, children are coming to the day boarding school. And though we have kept it online and offline, both the modes open for parents, and we have kept a finger crossed. Let's see what is there next, but we are running the school and children are coming.
Ma'am, so even the part about the day boarding, which is after the school, the students staying back,
Yeah,
that is
after
happening
the
as usual.
school, yeah. What we have done after the school, we have the sports facilities for the children. Children go for the sports because we are insisting on sports due to the immunity development of the children. We have the sports teachers available. So they do have sports practices and all. 5:30 they go along with the teachers. I mean, some of the day boarding teachers, they go back. Majority of them, they stay, and some, those they go back, they accompany the students.
Wonderful. That is absolutely beautiful to hear.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we are insisting on their immunity building. We have a program for developing the mental health. We have program for developing the physical health. And we have, a very, very nutritious diet, which is being made for this COVID period. So we are trying our best, but then always there is a fear factor.
well, ma'am, all the best, and I hope it stays safe.
Yeah.
Saxena, ma'am, if I may come to you next, I understand you are in a day school, and during this period, there's been a lot of online learning that has taken place. Stuff like blended learning and flipped classroom, which we were just talking about until, let's say, March 2020, have suddenly become realities and now practice. Right? We don't, you don't sweat anymore to think that okay, Zoom class, what will happen? How do you flip your classroom, etc. Do you think this makes the whole concept of day boarding slightly redundant because now school has anyways extended beyond the school boundaries and the school timings?
Yeah, I think the question itself has the answer. The thing is, whatever a face-to-face interaction can do, no matter of how technically sound the online classes are, cannot do. So if online classes were, I think, replacement for anything, I think then the school would not have been in a hurry to reopen. The government also, it would have continued. See, as everybody shared that the same procedure we did, but then the children were not coming to the school. They had some excuses. In fact, the 10th and 12th also, they made some excuses because we were running the parallel classes, the online and the offline, and the teachers were the same. But then we thought that ultimately the practices which they have to do under that, especially mathematics, for example, when they are practicing under the nose of their teacher, the effect is better. So what we did was we said we removed the online classes for those. So then immediately the response came better because the word of mouth. Only if 5 children were coming to the school, we gave them great classes. And as the word of mouth publicity spread, then the numbers started increasing because they felt the difference. So of course there are certain things when the syllabus is like we have to rush with the syllabus, we have some problem with the teacher, the classes could not be conducted, so that we can do as a let's say in the evening we can do. And nowadays also we do, when we have a test in the evening, the teachers make we are on Microsoft Teams, so they make the Microsoft forms and the child do it at their own pace. So hybrid and blending thing are happening, but then if you say they will affect the boarding school, I don't think so. Many of the times the students who are going to the day boarding schools are the ones who have working parents. Even while I'm talking to you, I got a message from a very happy working couple that thank God, ma'am, you are opening school for the primary also. So the thing is, it is their need, whether they like it or not, do not like it. So they are sending the children more for the safety and right engagement than for the academic thing. But then, of course, when there is Bharat Bandh or when there is some kind of weather severity, so then the online classes can definitely go. Rather than having a no school, we can have an online thing. But then the schools cannot never be replaced by online thing. And we are also planning to have the online blended kind of a learning even in the next session also, when the children come, in the sense like we can have certain projects which the children can do, discuss and practice the times they do not get on that. And then we can have remediation classes going on. We plan to continue with that. And the PTM is something which I want to share. Earlier, no matter how many circulars, how many phone calls, it would be not more than 60%. But with the online thing, it is 100%. because it's only
Mhm.
15-minute affair for the parents. So there are certain benefits which are going to stay in the blended form. But talking about the effect on the day boarding school, I don't think so. I don't think so. There is nothing can replace the face-to-face interaction. And then the parents are sending through the day boarding for their safety and security and good right habits under the right care. In the online classes, in fact, I have heard that the teachers shared that some of them, they minimize the screen and they start playing the games. So then who will is going to take responsibility for that? And in my school, it is located in a semi-urban setting. I missed that point. That's why I'm saying it, because it goes in both. I get lot of requests from the parents, ma'am, apna school day boarding kar lijiye. So why? You have all the facilities, it is very good. And when the children come back from school, they do not have the same atmosphere, because they are in the exposure of the atmosphere of the local language, or the children who are going to some other schools, or the surroundings are not optimum for the learning. Sometimes alcoholism in the family or something, or the other things. So these are the things which I'll say that day boarding, the need is different. It's not that something that the quality of education is being enhanced by that. And of course, when we use digital resources for that, the online classes is wonderful thing, because it is very convenient to use the digital resources and enhance the learning of the children. So I think blended thing is going to continue, but it will not affect the day boarding schools. Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very interesting thing there, because your school is in Haryana.
Yes, yes.
And statistically speaking, Haryana has contributed most in terms of the Olympic medal tally of India,
Yes,
or
yes,
overall international India sports
yes.
performance.
Yeah, yeah.
Given that the earlier claim that we had from Mrs. Mohanty that the day boarding school students are doing better in sports than perhaps day school students,
Yes, yes.
seeing Haryana schools turn day boarding, what that does to our sports scene is going to be a very interesting case study.
See, I'll tell you, I nowadays, because of the Kisan Andolan, the normal highway is blocked. So I go through the villages and all to my school from my home. I find that in the fields there are academies. The village people have taken the responsibility. There are not they hire professional people and they get their children trained. And amongst the field, you will find the boxing thing happening, not boxing, that kushti thing happening, wrestling, and then this cricket academy. There, I find 3 of them on my route to my school. So what I feel, that's because the food is good and the air is fresh, and the parents also want the shortcut to the success of the is this only, because education could not reach them, because I have, so in my school, so many first generation learners. So for them, the day boarding is also a reason, because nobody is there to guide them. Nobody, if a child is good in something, there is nobody to guide them how to carve a career path for them. So in that case, the day boarding helps them. But then Haryana being the medal tallier, but it has nothing to do with the day boarding school. I have very close by, I will not name the school, the school is of cricketer. But then it is not all that popular. It is not all that popular. A famous cricketer school is very in my nearby area. So the thing is, these medalists are coming from individuals, not in teams. So this is what the sad part and the good part is, that the people have taken the onus on themselves to win the medal, because that is the shortest route to their success or to their overcoming their poverty. That is what is there.
Ma'am, given that your school is in Bahadurgarh, you don't have to name the cricketer.
Okay.
Dr. Roy, if I may come to you next, my last question for you. So this on similar lines, right? How do day boarding and online learning intersect? Because with online learning, the amount of physical activity that students have had has decreased. Is this the balancing ground?
There are many things which probably was not, we are not able to implement by making different rules through circulars and all these things. But COVID has quite easily taught us how to go ahead with all such new things, all the different teaching aids. So, online, in the boarding school or extended boarding school, extended day boarding school, everywhere this is very important. And these days, all the children and the faculty, they are quite accustomed with. But the practical problem which we do face at times is connectivity. So that affects online classes. And this is quite interesting. We have seen, student, they are interested for online classes, but certain thing we cannot, of course, replace, like practical. We talked about OLAB. CBSE has also given certain guideline for all these things, but later on we received circular from controller of examination CBSE that this will not be conducted that way. So even for residential or day boarding or extended day boarding, whatever with the structure of the school, online will be definitely important, and it would be part of our life in future. Distant future, near future, as well as distant future, it will continue. It would be the practice of the day. So that will continue, but at the same time, chalk and talk and physical class, or what we call space provided offline class, that will also not be stopped. So that will also be, so it would be a mixture or amalgamation of both. See, like Poonam ma'am was talking about, sometimes Bharat Bandh or some kind of exigency, like in Varanasi, I have seen our local administration passes order, because of scorching heat, school should be shut, or because of severe cold, school should be shut. At times, in a lighter mode, I discuss with my faculty members that if these DMs are sent to Amritsar, then probably they will be keeping the school closed for the whole session, because that is the extreme climatic condition. Either it is too cold or it is too hot. So here, that way, schools are closed. Now, in such a situation, if government order comes, we are bound to close the school. But even if school is closed, now these online classes will help us to continue, and there will be loss of studies. So that way, whether it is a boarding or day boarding or extended day boarding or residential, this online classes will definitely help us, barring few cases and few subject and few particular topics, whereby physical presence is very much important. Experiential learning will be possible only when you experience that. So practical, even if I show you different through different teaching aids or different simple tools through virtual classes, but even then you will not be able to get the whole idea. You will not be able to make it out that way, unless physically you are present and practically you are doing it on your own under the guidance or supervision of the faculty. So that way it is important, but we need to see to it. We need to customize it. We need to see to it as per our need under the prevailing parameters. So that way, definitely what NCERT or CBSE through circular couldn't do it, we have achieved that because of COVID, and this will continue. That is the best part of.
Thank you. As we keep saying in Notebook, teachers and the teacher-student experience is irreplaceable. The best that products like ours, Notebook, can do is we can augment the teacher's efforts with digital tools. That's the best that we can. Mrs. Mohanty, I'll come to you next. My last question for today, because of paucity of time. I'm quite sure a lot of school administrators on this forum right now have been considering moving from a day school to a day boarding school. What is your advice to them for people to consider moving to a day boarding school, and what are the best things that they can do?
Actually, if the principals or the heads of the schools, they would move towards the day boarding from day schools, it would be very good, because there could be a lot of things which could be done for the children. Because if the school is only a day school, so we find out that the content delivery happens. So teachers feels that, okay, fine, the portion is completed, examination is completed, and that's it, because they don't find constraint of time for doing anything extra. But if the school is converted from day school to a day boarding school, there would be a lot of time. Then the individual, the talent of this student, the individual potential of the child could be nurtured, and the way the NEP is, coming up, and the requirement according to NEP, it is not possible to practice all those things in a day school, because the challenge would be the timing what the teachers are going to have, and within that to try out all the expectations whatever is there from the side of NEP would be difficult. But if it is a day boarding school, then there are facilities of sports, there are facilities of music, dance, art, everything is there. And this would provide a lot of opportunities for the children to experience and explore and to experiment that what they are good at. When there is no time is there, then what happens? Parents feels that, okay, my neighbor child is going for music class, let my child goes. But the child has no aptitude for learning music, but he goes there and spends time and comes back. And then there is 1 year gone, but the child has never tried to sing anything because he has no interest in it. So when the children are studying in day boarding school, it is one of the tasks which the child tries different things and ultimately understand that, okay, he is good at certain thing and he need to pursue that particular ability or that particular quality to the next level. So they are supported and helped by the teachers for that. So for the future, definitely the day boarding school would be very acceptable and require future education of schooling for the children, because school would be taking care of everything, and at the same time the emotional connectivity between the parents and the children also will continue, and all the other things how it was explained by Mrs. Poonam, that collaboration and values and the art integration, then all the different other facets of learning also would take place, because everything requires time. So if the time is there and students are provided with the right opportunities, right environment, which is possible to be done in a day boarding school, it is definitely going to help in creating very fully developed a personality or individual, where there is a 360 degree of nurturing of the child personality would be done. So it's going to be very helpful and beneficial for both, for the administrator, for teachers, for parents, because parents will start looking for what is extra. When they find out that, okay, we are having restriction of time and we are not able to send our child to a soccer class, we are not able to send our child to a guitar class. So what is next? They would look for school under one roof. Swimming is there, soccer is there, guitar is there, debate is there. So it would be beneficial for them also. So that way the day boarding school would definitely come up in future time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think that's all that we have time for today. There were some very good questions, but I'm sure we can get back to you with the answers over email. Uh, as we have seen, there are pros and cons, both sides, like most other things in life. That seems to be an easy conclusion to draw for most discussions. But I today stand convinced that day boarding is a great idea and might be a way forward for a lot of schools who are here. Achin, I think we've had a fantastic discussion, quite a bit that you have to thank for. So I'll leave this space to you. Again, thank you so much for being here. Achin, over to you for the vote of thanks.
Really a wonderful discussion we had, no doubt about it, and very seamless also. But sir, thank you as always for giving us a great start and for discussing some very practical aspects also. Like for instance, the recent trend of conversions, where you have seen full-fledged boarding schools also turning to either like facilities for day boarding, or day boarding facilities also being provided, like considering the need of the day. and also some other great aspects you highlighted, sir, which I'm sure stays with our esteemed audience. Sasmita ma'am, I really thank you for some great points that you raised. I think, and also wonderful to know that in spite of the fact with so much of challenge that all of us have been through last so many months because of the COVID and pandemic, the fact that right now, and as we heard that one of the largest boarding schools, one of the largest day boarding schools in Maharashtra, the fact that parents' trust and faith, I think that speaks volumes. You know, that to me is the biggest vetting of the great work that you and your team is doing. The fact that they trust you, and still, as you rightly mentioned, the children are coming, attendance is not dropping, and so much of thought has gone into it in terms of using your expanded infra, social distancing, and also great to know that children's mental well-being, nutritional diet, immunity building, these factors are being taken care of with so much of precision. You know, really hats off, great work you're doing. I must compliment you for this. Dr. Roy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Pleasure is all ours. Dr. Roy, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion and sharing your thoughts with us. Wonderful to know about the entire schooling ecosystem at Varanasi and how administration and all the schools have joined hands, you know, to ensure that, you know, schooling comes back to normal. As you rightly mentioned, that so much of survey, you know, parents being given an opportunity to voice their concerns, and the kind of response that you've got from parents, really encouraging. The fact that so many of them really opted to send their children. Also, what I really, as from what you were discussing, I think one of the things that really came up was how, in a phased manner, step by step, this entire reopening of schools, because this is one thing we at Notebook have been very closely watching with so much of interaction with so many educators. Really, all of us look forward to the day when we'll see our schools, with children back at schools. Without children, schools are incomplete, and I'm very sure the children also are longing to go back to schools. I think, thank you, sir, for some great points that you made. Poonam ma'am, again, I think one very important aspect you highlighted, the need of first generation learners, you know, that really stays with us. And considering that aspect, the need of first generation learners especially, and the fact that parents are requesting you or coming up with a suggestion that why not also look at day boarding, speaks volumes about the current trend. You know, what we are trying to analyze today, that where the future is headed to. I think, the proof of the pudding lies in eating. The fact that parents themselves are coming up and suggesting this, especially aspirational districts, small towns, first generation learners, that really speaks volumes. And great to know about, about the fact that so much of thought has gone into each and every aspect that you were discussing. And the level of awareness that we are seeing in parents, even across India, the fact that concepts like day boarding are really picking up, because this is a need of the hour. These are practical aspects that we all understand: working parents, nuclear families, migration. So I'm sure some great points we discussed, and I also thank members of our esteemed audience for their time today, for being with us. With your encouragement and support, we have been able to take Together for Education webinar from strength to strength, and we look forward to your support in the days to come. Thank you. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.